There. We're about ready. I just want to make sure. There we go. That's got mid cough. Good. All right, and we are live. Hey, folks, welcome, welcome, welcome. Geocaching Podcast. All right, everybody ready? I have no bottom third, unfortunately. The Google is Hangout people are doing what everybody else is doing and just not working. So we will go from there. So just imagine the Geocaching Podcast logo, and we will go from there. Sit back, relax, get your favorite libation, your favorite snack. The Geocaching Podcast is coming at you right about now.
You want to know how to find it, seek it out when they hide it. You know it's in the bag when it's an easy grab. But come on, take a chance now. So go, geocache, geocache. And if you need help, we're right there in a flash. If you got a question, just call in and ask. Uncover the stash on the Geocaching Podcast. The Geocaching Podcast.
Welcome to the Geocaching Podcast, episode 524, recorded live on January 31st, 2018. I'm your host, Headhardhat with
Scott Burks,
Taz 427, and
Info Ferret.
You can join us in our chat room and watch our live video stream, plus participate with us as we record this episode. All this and more can be found at www.geocachingpodcast.com/live. Be sure to contact us via our voicemail line at 630-31-VOICE. Also find us on Twitter at geocachingpodcast.com/Twitter and Facebook at geocachingpodcast.com/Facebook. This episode is sponsored by our good patrons of the Geocaching Podcast. To become a contributing patron, simply click on our PayPal logo on our webpage to help keep our podcast going. From all of us at the Geocaching Podcast, we thank you. Woo! Okay, so it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and the guys got time off due to technicalities. Once again, the cable company had some interesting interesting situations where, you know, I've got 15 years of support that I've worked for technical computer biz, and you always start from the basics. When something goes wrong, you start at, did you turn on the machine? Is it plugged in? And then you build from there and eventually try to figure out where things went right or wrong. Well, they kind of did that with us as well, where it's like, okay, is it this? Can we reset your modem? Which I did 3 different ways from Sunday, and told them that. And of course, being support people, they don't believe what you tell them anyway. So you go through the list.
You know nothing, Andy.
Yeah, I know nothing. So
Try turning it back off and on again.
Yeah, hit the reset button. That's the main thing that goes with most technology these days. So that's what we did. And then they go, well, we think it's something with your modem. And it's like, okay, I'm surprised they didn't go the router part, but we actually did the part of disconnecting the router from it and just using the modem, which was also fun. And long story short, too late. Other people in my area were also having similar problems, and of course they didn't check that, which means that there was a more common ground area, like a node or one of the boxes or something, where the internet.
It was the CMTS.
Yes.
The cable modem terminal system.
Yes.
I used to design these things.
Oh, it's your
fault.
So
we'll blame you.
You can blame me. I'll blame TI. It's most likely a TI chipset in there.
Yeah, so either way, after several weeks of internet, it didn't affect the TV, which I guess it must be on a separate signal or something like that. Didn't affect the TV at all.
Never affects the TV.
No.
It wouldn't affect the TV.
Yeah. And so they eventually, about 2-3 days ago, figured it out and fixed it, I hope. So if we go out, you know why. But that ended up being the issue with it. So it's like nothing more frustrating than, oh, it's working. Oh, it's working. Oh, so yeah, that makes it fun. So that's basically what they have with that. Weather-wise, we've had everything from extreme cold, snow, ice. We had a whole bunch of stuff over the past couple of weeks. So it's in a plethora of winter stuff. I think this is probably, I know last year somewhere somebody said it was the absolute hottest year on record ever was 2017 for the planet.
Right.
And this seems to be like the coldest winter. So
unrecorded record,
yeah,
technically. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure the caveman back then went, it was cold and froze my antelopes off and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's cold. So that's I blame Scott because that's where all these suckers come from. They come from that wonderful Chicago to the Midwest, northern Midwest, and it just rifles right down to us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've actually had beautiful weather. It's funny this winter in Chicago. It's either 45 degrees outside like it was today, or it's like 20 below like it was yesterday. It doesn't like there's no in between here. So it snows, and then it's 40 degrees, and it melts, and then it snows.
See, that's the north. That's the south down here. That's what it's supposed to do.
Ridiculous.
It's supposed to be
ridiculous.
freeze.
I like a nice stable 30 degrees. Anywhere between 25 and 30, 35.
Well, I saw one section on my calendar for my radar, and it shows temperatures around basically North America. And there was a spot not too much north of the northern border, right where above where Scott was. It was minus 36.
No.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah. Well, we've had heat waves and 30C, so heading round the hundreds for a bit. But today, it's all turned to custard. We've got the remains of Cyclone Fahey, and I know I'm saying that wrong, but basically there's plenty of rain and it's going horizontal.
Ooh.
I can see it out the window.
Yeah, because I think you said before the winds were somewhere in the neighborhood of 86 miles an hour, which is hurricane weather.
It's not steady. It's gusty, but that's the sort of top gust that's being measured. Yeah.
So it's windy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's summer.
Stuff. So Scott, so it's been up and down with there. How have you been doing with caching?
Good. Last weekend I didn't get to say I had a phenomenal weekend. I got 37 caches on a 5-mile hike, plus an FDF on a puzzle cache in the middle of the forest preserve that night.
Wait, okay, who
solved the puzzle?
Yeah,
that was a field puzzle, and for the record, I did.
Ooh.
Okay.
First try too. It was like a not a field. What's that called? Like a Simon puzzle in the forest.
Oh, okay.
Put it on the tree. It was
patterns.
Yeah. So I got the FTF for January out of the way.
All right.
Done.
Cool.
And then last weekend, I got my Australia badge thing. Went to an event and got that.
Excellent.
That was about it. We had the kids. I had 3 kids. I got 3 kids. All of them are sick.
Oh no.
I got one with the stomach flu. I got one with the regular flu, and I got one with a strep throat.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah, that's a triple threat.
They all 3 got different ones. I got a nasty cold. Now, of course, I mean my whole house is freaking infected.
Yeah.
And Jesse sick. We're all sick.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're up
lovely.
there and we're down here because
yeah, it's lovely. Yeah.
No fun. Well, we hope you get better. I mean, for everybody, because let's face it, it is no fun when the kids are sick.
Hey, I got no kids this weekend, so.
Oh, okay. So they're away. All right, that's better. So you can.
Well, I got one. Cam's here now. Cam's got a stomach bug.
Yeah.
So my 2 kids are they're at their moms, but they're both recovering. This was last week, so.
Yeah. No fun. I guess the flu's pretty bad this year.
Shane. We cut it really early with Shane, with my youngest. He's only 7. We cut it. My ex-wife, as soon as she started sniffling, she's like, I'm running to the doctor. And sure enough, he's like, he's got the flu. So they Tamiflued him and took nothing. I think the best he had was a temperature of 100. They cut it so early.
Oh, that's good.
That's lucky.
Yeah, real early. Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Then so we kept Toby and Cam and Shane completely separated. So he couldn't affect them. But then Toby had strep throat already, so he was miserable. It was just miserable.
Yeah, that's no fun. That's no fun at all.
Yeah.
Taz, how about yourself, man? How's things going?
Well, last weekend it was really nice out here, and I was planning on going to do some caching before the Australia Day event that I went to. And my wife, when I woke up that morning, my wife gave me a honey-do list and said, "Get working."
Oh.
And I was like, But I did manage to start working on some puzzles for our Geo Woodstock. So far, I've solved 200 puzzles.
Oh my God! Really?
Yes. So there's 500. So in the 25-mile radius caches that I gathered for Geo Woodstock, there's 530 caches, and so far 530 puzzles. Pardon me. And so far I've solved 200 of them. Actually, technically, I've only solved 195 of them. So, but it's ticking up every day.
Wow. So just for people that are what's the term, Scott? Is obsessed with puzzle caches. I'm sure there's a better term, but
I don't know, but I'm really hoping he's a nice guy and shares that PQ with everybody.
That's what I was going to say. That's basically all you did, though, right? You just
share the wealth on that.
I am me, and I might provide a link to a Google Drive page that I'm hosting it on.
What a nice guy.
There you go.
Because
sometimes
Scott,
it pays.
Yeah, Scott's basically out of the 15,000 puzzle caches that he has, he solved 6.
About 6. It's about right. Yeah.
I mean, counting this weekend.
I don't solve them. I just find them.
I'm probably about 80% of the ones I've claimed I've actually solved.
Yeah, I mean, everybody does it. I mean, that's just how it is. Anything with any kind of mathematical equation in it, forget it. I'm done. There's nothing there.
Jesse for that.
Yeah.
The math ones are the easy ones.
Oh yeah, it says
I don't mind the research ones. The ones I can never find are sort of here's a page. So you've got to delve into the random source code and translate it from Klingon to Vogon and then convert it back. Oh right, but the sort of the research ones I can generally nut out with a bit of flailing.
I'm just impressed that you know the difference between Klingon and Vogon. I'm impressed.
Those the research ones, like the murderer ones, those just drive me insane. It's like, oh,
I did have to translate Klingon twice in these 200 puzzles.
Well, there was like open caching a couple of years where you had the Vahuvian language that you've had to translate the pictographs into things, and that took me way too much research for going to an event.
I mean, I've done Dragonese, Viking,
Elder or Younger Futhark.
What's that?
Elder or Younger Futhark runes.
Yeah, I've done those before. Yeah, but this particular Viking was the how to train a dragon Viking, which was slightly different than the regular Viking runes. So I had to specifically go and search through hundreds of different Viking images to figure out that, oh crap, this is the specific one that they use on how you train your dragon, which is they have a few little tweaks in there.
Wow.
And the evil one I came across a few years back was somebody had written a code you needed to work out in Tengwa, which is one of the Elven scripts. But he'd written it in not the standard. It was if you look at the right version of the keyboard, which number key is that letter on?
Oh.
Yep. I've seen those.
Yeah, that was at the time a right bitch.
Yeah. So that's why Chad does this, 6 months before everything goes down, because you need the off time to work on them.
Exactly.
And if it's an area that you're not familiar with, different cache owners and puzzle setters work differently, and you've just got to try and get into their minds.
Yes.
Oh yeah, getting into the mindset of the puzzle maker is half the challenge.
That's scary.
I'm going to have to get into the mind of a few of the Yorkshire puzzle makers because I haven't yet.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's terminology and lingo down in Kiwi land that is got to be crazy for an American to try to figure out. For example.
Oh, yeah,
Hmm.
and this is stuff because I've got the flights booked to the UK Mega, and Yorkshire dialect is different.
Wow.
Hey, try German lingo on a translator to English. You're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
German doesn't tell. There's I'm not going to pronounce this right. There's Hochdeutsch or High German, which is sort of what all of them speak. And then there's Hessische and Tyrol and all sorts of different local dialects that are widely spoken, but they may or may not be the same. And my German is virtually non-existent. I just could not get my head around that language.
Ich kann sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Ich kann ein bisschen, aber es ist nicht gut.
Now, how does that work on, like, say, for the United States? Not, take the language equation out, just the slang that the Americans use. Is that the same way in other countries?
We've got slang. Brits and Kiwis generally understand American slang, may not use it because there's just so much of it. We get all your shows.
Right.
We get all your music. But we don't get... But, I mean, I occasionally now, because I've been out the country so long, I occasionally watch the odd British show and something will come up and I don't get how slang's evolved in the past 15 years.
Wow, it's interesting. It's
just millennial slang.
Yeah, so you get different, like you said, different dialects, and then you get different slang, and then different. How we talk to each other nowadays is just interesting in and of itself. But Sarah, other than hurricane winds and that, how else have you been doing over down under?
Well, in the last couple of weeks, I had the fly down to Christchurch, pick up a random hire car, and drive it back up the island, And the random hire car, they obviously thought middle-aged, white, packer-hair chick, we'll give her a Holden, which is a Vauxhall term for Brits, Holden Commodore V6, bright red, all the toys, for $2. They even threw in a tank of petrol.
Wow.
It went, this is a phrase from my childhood. It went like shit off a shovel in a straight line. But it didn't go. But wasn't good on corners, and part of the road north of Kaikoura still is gravel. It's not. They've not finished repairing it yet, and it did not like a loose road or off road at all. But the highlight of that trip was I finally managed to find a case that's been unclaimed for over 1,000 days.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and you could drive. It was 50 meters from the side of the road.
Is it just difficult that nobody went for it, or just couldn't find it?
The area's been inaccessible for a year or so, but it was. You couldn't. The 50 meters was where you couldn't park. You had to park about 150 meters from it. Walk back along a track that theoretically you could drive along if you had a Land Rover or something like that. It was down to an edge of a stream, river that was obviously somebody's fishing track to their pet fishing spot. So I parked the car outside the road, walked along that, got to the end, and somebody had put a load of beehives there.
Really?
Now, I'm not bothered by bees, and but I know if I'd had an allergy problem to them, I'd have been straight back along that track as fast as you could go. But so I reckoned if they were happy doing their thing, if I didn't bother them, they wouldn't bother me, and they didn't. And you then had to go across a river, which was probably about 30, 40 feet across at its widest. But it was a stinking hot day. It was 30°C, so not high 90s. So a cool river that went only about halfway up your calves was really quite pleasant. I wouldn't want to do it in winter. I wouldn't want to. And it was on a little island in the middle of that river. And it was in perfect condition, despite not having been found for so long.
Wow. Yeah, see, I would have stopped off at the bees. I'd be running down the trail like a little girl.
You'd hate it out here then. So I run into beehives all the time.
Really?
There's a lot of places that'll put them behind businesses in the little gullies down behind a tree where they can't be seen by non-roaming eyes, and a lot of people like to put geocaches back there too. So there you go, walking down, it's like, oh, there's a bunch of bees around. Oh, there's beehives. Okay, be careful.
Yeah, don't piss anybody off.
There you are, geocaching.com. That's another attribute you can add. Beehives
I would
nearby.
say, because
Yes.
I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah.
I've only seen it out here in California, where you have it in relatively public spaces. So
do people just put them out just to get the honey and that's it? It's just a place to put them?
I think it's like temporary storage, because they actually take them around to the different farms here for pollination. They get paid to take them to the farms to pollinate the certain vegetables and stuff. So because they need the pollination in order for them to produce the fruits.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Same thing with a lot of our orchards. Yeah, I can see that they move them around. But the other story I've got from this weekend, which was stinking hot. I've got burnt and I put sunblock on, but I obviously didn't put enough sunblock on. Was we went out walking along a couple of beaches on the south coast, and I'd completely forgotten, but realised that you went halfway along the beach, then you went through a natural arch, and beyond that part of the beach is the clothing optional part.
Oh my!
All I can say is I hope some of the people out there had put a lot more sunblock on than I had.
Now, do you go venturing in such situations, or
we were just walking through? Hey,
taking in the sights.
That's it. Yeah, because I that's what I always say. My luck is when I go to these things, it's like woohoo, optional clothing, and you go there thinking that you got the Swedish bikini team running around, and it is not the Swedish bikini team at all.
All I can say
well, it's a Swedish bikini team from 1954.
The male Swedish bikini team.
Oh yeah, it's just some things you can't unsee.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Signal of Frog logo Australia Day of sausages on the barbecue.
Okay, that gets a ding.
And what was really funny is my youngest lad's 13 and a half now, and he was so embarrassed.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine for a 13-year-old. It's like...
Can we just move? Can we just move?
Yeah, please. I love it. That's great. Yeah. Well, cool stuff. All right, let's move on. If you would please consider becoming a patron to our show. Simply go to geocachingpodcast.com when you get a chance and hit our PayPal or our Patreon logo. And if you can afford to throw a couple bucks each month to us, we'd greatly appreciate it. Helps keep things going. And then Scott, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
All right, let's hit the world famous now, because Scott was the one that came up for this transition, and we'll hit the mailbag.
I got mail! Yay! I got mail! Yay!
Yay! All right, this comes from Merlin1392, aka Tim Green. Tim says, it's been a while since I wrote, but I'll quickly cover a few things. Number 1, great show last week. I guess this is 2 weeks ago now.
There you go.
If you put it out, you are responsible for it. If you can't take care of it, take it down. Who cares how many caches you've hidden, or if they're nothing but geotrash? I'm much more impressed with quality, not quantity. 2, he's planning a geocaching route. Something we've talked about in the past. Cachetur.no. That's CACHETUR.no, which is a website. I've been playing and planning with it for several weeks now. Super easy, lets you break down trips in a variety of ways, routes your caches to the most efficient path or drive, and it's free. I've worked with Thomas, the developer, on a couple of issues and enhancements, and as Nick really does a great job with Cachely, so does Thomas with Cachetur. Check it out. Yeah, Cachetur. Looking forward. I think Jesse and I are going to use it soon. I'm looking forward to playing around with it.
Very cool.
Number 3. Can we somehow balance Sarah better? Each week I struggle with hearing her I get the volume up so that she has to come through clear, and then you guys blast me out of the car. I love her perspective, and I wish I had consistent volume from all of you. That's it. Thanks for the show, Merlin 1392.
There you go, Sarah. You're being called out for being unbalanced.
Hey, I've been unbalanced for years, and someone's only just realised.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, now in the old days, when we had more time, we would actually have each of the hosts record locally in their own studios or bedroom or wherever they're recording from, and then they would send the recordings to me, and I would balance it and go that way. Over time, that had become, when you're working 2 hours straight on producing a show for that, it was just easier to run it through my board and go that way. So sometimes when Sarah's, like right now, she's at her place of work that she does it, she has different volume and different connections than she would have, say, if sometimes when she uses her phone or when she's at home. So you're going to get different volume things. And then unfortunately, that's just par for the course with how we have with this.
Yeah, I try. Yeah. I try. But the good thing is that there's usually reliable Wi-Fi wherever I happen to be.
Right. Which is better than nothing, because that way, otherwise you're just the cyborg, and that's no fun listening to either. So we're just happy to have her on. And
is your mic up right now? Can you turn your mic up at all?
Who?
You.
Yeah, because sometimes you get a chance to play with the game
right now.
A little bit.
How's that?
No, it's the same. I don't know if the mic's on.
It should be.
I don't think it is. I think no, nothing.
Oh well, I will have a look at the
I think you're coming into the laptop speaker.
Yeah, well, it's all right.
Sorry.
Speak up a little. But there you go. So yeah, that's why sometimes if we get the little is that a loogie you got on your thing now?
What?
No, when you coughed up on your microphone.
No. I'm saying like she tapped her mic. You should be able to hear this. Like
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Yes,
right,
we hear
I'll
nothing.
see if I can find the
settings
and play with it. So if it suddenly changes.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out. But thank you, Merlin, for sending in your stuff, and we'll work on it. I actually have been enjoying seeing the whatever thing that you rubber band to your mic there, Miss Sarah. That's
that
cute.
Was Simon's idea.
Was it?
Anti-Darth Vader.
Yes. She's got this red cloth-like thing that's wrapped around her mouthpiece, as it would be. So yeah, that's cool.
And for those that don't like me, I'm sorry, it's not a red cloth-like thing wrapped around my mouth.
Another whole show there. That's a whole different thing. All right, let's see. Well, it's again, thank you to Merlin 1392 for bringing all that fun stuff up, and Taz will bring some stuff. Actually, we won't, because there is no news that we found. Not really. Info.
What does it say when we have more emails than we do news?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. It was the wonderful transition that you found that's invoked people to send in.
People want to hear it.
Yeah, so
I found that strange one about the poor woman who got herself lost and gone walking totally unprepared.
I think that's a good example that we should go over. Why don't you go over that, Sarah? We actually
I can't see the show note. Actually,
okay.
Hang on.
Well, we have Sarah had put in our show notes here a thing about, and I love how they put this. And this is from I guess Emergency Services. Is that an Australian thing?
It's a British thing.
Service? It's a British thing, and
I've got it up, so I can read it if you want.
Right. Go ahead, do the title. I love the title.
Inadequately prepared woman rescued from moor.
There you go. So, in other words, in the States,
that title is so British.
It is. That's about as for us. It's like
prepared.
Yes.
Alone, and from what you know, for the record, Dartmoor is completely the other end of the country from where I grew up. So I know where it is on the map, but I don't know what it's like. But this way, it's part of it. Apparently, it's the sort of area that the SAS do some of their training on, so it's not exactly friendly. It's not exactly forgiving territory. But anyway,
and apparently pretty easy to get lost in. Apparently.
Yes,
a lone woman walker was rescued soaked and frightened overnight by the Ashburton-based Dartmoor Rescue Group after being wrongly dressed for the rugged terrain. They say she would have learnt a valuable lesson after volunteers found her scared, wet through and mildly hypothermic near the Avon Dam at 5:20 a.m.
You know.
It emerged that the woman, in her 20s, so what on earth has that got to do with it? And from the Welwyn Garden City
They're painting
area,
a picture, Sarah. They're
Yes.
painting
Was
a
she
picture.
fun?
She was
doesn't
wet
say.
in her 20s.
Look, I don't think it was that sort of picture.
And she could have been on the Swedish bikini team.
There you go.
No, I don't think so. But she was. She had no compass and maps, and she was dressed in totally inadequate jeans
What was
and
she dressed
fashion
in?
shoes.
Oh,
Wait, time out. What exactly are fashion shoes?
I think it's sort of
High heels,
pumps,
not trainers, not walking shoes. Yeah,
clogs.
so
Wait,
No
what's the difference
idea.
between a trainer and a walking shoe?
a walking shoe's heavier,
Price.
structured, more ankle support. Trainers are more sort of
Okay.
running shoes.
So like a hiking shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so a
so
trainer's
neither
a
of those.
Fashion.
So
She
a
was-
trainer is a gym shoe and a walking
Just
shoe. is a-
imagine she was in heels.
Yeah.
Or cord shoes, but not designed for country.
Right.
Going through the country.
So dress shoes.
The
So dress
woman
shoes.
who
Nice
had
flats.
been
Nice
yeah,
flats.
the woman who had been inverted commas geocaching during the day raised the alarm with police at midnight, complaining she was lost and wet and cold. A spokesman for the Dartmoor group said afterwards, "We are quite confident that the young lady has learnt a valuable lesson from her ordeal. She had no map or compass, no spare clothing, was dressed in jeans and fashion shoes which were totally inadequate for both the terrain and weather conditions, and certainly contributed to her situation and mild hypothermia. When
Why are
walking on-
jeans inadequate? I'm confused. Why would
Because
jeans
when they
be-
get wet, they get very heavy and they get cold.
Oh, all right, fair
The
enough.
standard hiking tramping thing of if you're going, don't wear heavy cotton jeans if you're going out walking. It's going to
Yeah,
rain.
it doesn't hold heat as well either.
Right.
Cotton.
No, I wear my geocaching
Right.
geocaching pants, which are like the water,
Oh.
Yes.
No, I've
the ones
got,
that turn
I
into
wear-
shorts. Those ones, the REI ones or the
Anyway,
the North Face.
when walking on Dartmoor, you need to be properly protected against the weather conditions, not rely on electronic devices to find your way, and have some spare clothing should things go wrong. He added, she was very lucky that we found her when we did, as her condition was deteriorating in the poor weather. And apparently she was discovered at an area known as the Heap of Sinners,
A heap of
Which I've ne-
sinners.
which I have never heard of.
That's called
So-
keg night at
That is
many
so not American. A
fraternities.
heap is such a non-American word.
So she managed to make a call. Therefore, she had charge on her phone.
Oh, right.
Therefore, she should have had a friggin' compass.
I mean,
So-
ways your way home.
You,
from
you,
there,
you,
man.
you got it. Your phone should have, as any smartphone should have a compass app. Now,
AKA
being
mark
able to
your-
use it,
Yes, AKA mark your car before
That's
you
right.
leave.
Mark your
that
damn
too.
car.
You
Rule
know.
number one. Come on. The new Apple Maps even does it for you, for Christ's sake. Automatically.
Wow.
I mean, we're laughing and we're joking, but it's a serious thing.
Yes,
We-
it's,
Yes.
we get this.
But,
in
we-
the-
you know,
or
we've done
you
the-
look at it the other way is, Darwinism and just,
well, that's
we've all
true.
we've done a few shows on what you wear if you're going out of the town
Right.
looking for caches.
Mhm.
And you should be prepared and have extras. And I don't know, keep a compass with you as well.
Yep.
The thing with this a lot of times, because we get this in the States every once in a while, you guys going out geocaching. I remember the one from a few years ago where a couple of guys were going to a wedding and they thought, oh, we got some time afterwards, let's go out in the woods in Tennessee and see what happens
one.
with you guys. And got lost and that way same thing. So the only in their fault with it, the phone went dead. So that's with sorry about that, my daughter's calling me. So yeah, that's one of those things where it does happen and you're out and there's been times where I've had it with mine where you go out, you go geocaching, you don't realize how much drained back then on my GPS. And next thing you know that, well, it looked like I had half a battery left.
Right.
And
Mhm.
you're out in the middle of nowhere and all of a sudden, brrr, So
especially those rechargeable batteries,
Yes.
because it does it on the voltage level, and it gets a steep curve, and it goes from 3/4 full to empty in no time flat.
Yeah, and
But that's also why I carry two things in my pack at all times in my geocaching bag. One is one of those $5 external batteries you could buy at Target for your phone.
Mhm.
Yes.
Everybody should own them. Shame on you if it don't. They're like $5, guys.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
Have that. Throw it in your bag. Forget about it. Two, I have a real compass in my bag as well. A real live.
I got a real compass. I've got a power bank for my phone, and I've got a 2 pairs of AA rechargeable batteries that are fully charged with me whenever I go. If I'm out of the car for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, if you're out for any kind of walking on any kind of trail system, even if it's ones that you feel,
you should definitely have.
Yes,
absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt.
So yeah, it does happen, and yeah, we can joke about it. And I think that it's more of this poor young kid was out there in inclement weather in her jeans and pumps, and just
no, I'm sure she was terrified. That would suck.
She got a life lesson.
Got a life lesson.
You know, I've told the story many times. You know, me and Toby got lost. Toby was 3.
Yeah.
You know, God, it was 10 years ago, and we got lost in the woods, and the sun was going down. And I told her, and my phone get lost signal. And,
Daddy, are we gonna die?
I was terrified because I had my 3-year-old with me. You know?
There is nothing more scary when the sun's going down. And
that next day, I went out and bought a compass. That literally that next day, I went to Target and got a compass. You know.
You know, and it's usually then you check your batteries when you're out in the middle of the woods and they're shot on your flashlight, and it's like, oh, this is
it doesn't do it anymore, but there's one preserve near me that is real finicky with phones.
Yeah,
you will be like full bars and then no signal. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I hit. I hit no signal, and I'm like, oh god. Okay. And this is 10. This is on my 3S maybe. I can't remember what at the time. But like, oh man, it was terrible.
Because if you're walking someplace and you're on a trail system and trails intersync all over the place, and you suddenly don't realize that you're on the green trail and you should think that you're on the white trail and go that way, and then realize that you're pointing towards the direction of where your car is, and suddenly there's a swamp. It's like, how the heck did that get there? And then elevation's another one.
Yep.
One trick I always do real quickly is when we deviate from the trail, we leave the trail. I make sure I always look back.
Yes.
About every couple 200 or 300 feet, I take a quick glance backwards just to see what it looks like from the other side. So I know if I'm going like, oh yeah, and that's helped actually a bunch of times. Like,
it's very easy to get discombobulated.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're out in the woods,
and the tree can look completely different from both sides.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you go, well, I'll just follow the shadows are going this way, so I'll just do. It does not work that way.
Well, there's a possible trip that I've been invited on next weekend. And that's going to be fortunate. And there's going to be a group of us going. There's at least 3 of us, and there's another 3 people we're waiting to hear on. And that one is proper hiking boots, and there's at least 2 PLBs in packs because we've got one, and the person who's pulling us together's got one. But that's going to be on sort of trappers tracks rather than paths, and to get a couple of caches that haven't been found since 2015.
Oh wow,
nice.
Yeah, I mean,
if I go, I'll report on it.
Yeah, be prepared and keep those hiking boots in your trunk because man, you need them.
Don't put on the trunk; they need to be on your feet.
Well, that too, but at least they're in hand's reach before you leave the car, so you don't have to be in fashion shoes.
Fashion shoes. Speaking of, I got the greatest boots. I wore 2 weeks ago. I bought these boots. I didn't. I'll talk about them next time. They're over the shoe boots. Did you ever hear of those?
Is that the ones where they just go over the tips of the front and the back?
No. They're boots. They come up. They come up to my knees almost.
Oh, muckalock type.
Are you talking Wellingtons?
I can't remember the name of them.
Wellies.
Wellies, yeah.
Well, it's the rubber things, aren't they?
Yeah, rubber things that you put over your shoes.
No, I'll show. Like, I'll show them next week.
I
They're
grew
awesome.
up with those
They're
things.
awesome.
I believe they used to refer to them as rubbers. So
well, I know the rubbers. Yeah, I mean, my dad used to have those when it rained. Yeah, yeah. This isn't those. No,
okay. Well, we'll be interested in those. That'll be good. Anytime you get good stuff like that, we love to share.
Especially for winter caching too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're
Yeah,
the
because
awesome.
hiking or walking around in your tennis shoes is not the best way to go in snow.
No, I just used them 2 weeks ago. There was snow on the ground in the preserve. When we were in the preserve, it was total snow on the ground.
So what's the grip like on them?
Great, awesome. It's got a totally the bottom's got a total grip on it.
Oh, that's the best.
That would make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right, let's move on. I mean, we've been gabbing all day, and that's just we've got together now for the first time in a couple of weeks, so that's what happens. And today's a kind of a gabby kind of show, anyways, because we thought we'd bring it around for the beginning of the year and getting into some basic 101 stuff. So we figured every time now that I've ever put out a quiz, the thing that kills people the most is either terms, definitions, or acronyms.
Right.
And we do this show about every year and a half, give or take, to kind of just touch over stuff that's out there. A lot of the ones that we have, I think Sarah would probably get them more than we are. Some of them are from the UK, some are from the United States. But they're good ones. And I can see people using these every once in a while and going, I know what that means.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know why we're getting hammered on the acronyms, because you're using UK acronyms.
I saw these because they're unique, but I have seen the terms used before.
It's Kiwi acronyms as well.
Yes. So we've got a little bit of that. I'm just going to we've got a whole list of either acronyms or terminology that is used in the geocaching world, and we thought we'd enlighten people for the next few minutes and just kind of hit some of the stuff on here. I mean, some of the easy ones that don't even get used as much anymore, at least I don't think so. Like one of the ones that I saw was PAF, for phone a friend. That used to be a thing. There used to be a time for several years where phone a friend was where you would just have all your geocaching buddies that are on there, because a lot of times you geocache in an area that the same area that these people are, and it's like, okay, I'm stuck. Especially with puzzles for me, and it's like, okay, I don't know what Q is in this. Somebody help me out, and I would call somebody up and go that way. But PAF, I don't think people do it that as much anymore, do they?
I'm not doing it as much out here as I did in Houston, and I don't know if it's because of the times or just because of the area. But you know, I had a list of all the major geocachers in the Houston area that I had on a spreadsheet, and I can look them up anytime that I needed. And it's like, okay, who is the last person that I know that found this? Okay, I'm calling that person.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I use it for. It's that if I just want to make sure I'll give it a really good look, but just to make sure it's gone, you know, I'll call a buddy of mine who's found it and be like, where is it? You know?
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's what, in the Facebook days, that's being taken over with PM and personal messaging people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, now I get Facebook messages all the time. Yeah. From cachers, you know, who don't have my number, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Anybody else want to take a stab? We got a ton of them in here.
I mean, yeah, but
I'm getting from the geocaching messenger app as well. So they're doing that more frequently than ever.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the old TNLN to took nothing left nothing. I remember those. Or the TNLN SL.
Yeah, the tinsel one.
Yeah, the tinsel. Yes.
Yeah. Now, the different one in the UK that I saw on here was there's one that they call MTT for multi-trunk tree. Now, in this part of the world, we call those crowns.
Oh, well, that's one that we tend not to use, that Kiwis tend not to use.
Yeah.
I was just skimming through that, and that was one I didn't recognize.
Yeah. I was surprised to see LPC in the UK acronyms. It's like they don't have skirt lifters over there, so I guess it's like maybe magnetic on the lampposts there, or something.
Yeah, or the different at the base of a lamppost. I don't know, and there's some that you call skirt lifters around here, but there's not that many, thank God.
Yeah, because that's optional clothing beaches is where the skirt lifters are. That's different.
not getting into the
Okay.
conversation.
I was, not just making observations. That's another one I can think with the UK that we don't have as much here is ICP for ivy covered post, or ICT for ivy covered tree. Because ivy hides in the UK, I hear, are like a bugger.
A dime a dozen.
Yeah,
and they're a pain. And they're a pain in the rear.
Yeah, well, there's not that many ivy. The one sort of equivalent pain in the butt here is something that's called flax, which is sort of it's not a bush. It's sort of I suppose a rushes and possibly the nearest.
They're like thistle in that, where it's got the spiky.
No, it's got long sort of bladed leaves, and they grow from sort of central crowns, and you can get huge flax bushes. And if somebody's been evil and hidden a small container in one of those, you can be on for hours trying to find the damn thing.
Oh, see, those are like holly bushes and stuff.
Yeah.
I just ignore
no,
those.
holly I don't mind.
Oh.
Holly's prickly, or
oh yeah, they're spiky.
Florida will do that with the baby what do you call it, palm trees, and so they're coming out at 100 different angles in there, and you got to find which little pocket it's in, and you're getting eaten up while you're trying to get your hand down in there and look.
Yes. Gorse is nasty as well. That's prickly and horrible.
Yeah, because holly bushes here in this part of the country are just everywhere, and those are literally, I've got the heavy duty gloves that go up to my elbows that I have to use for that. Otherwise, you just get shredded when you go in. So we'd love to thank the people that hide things in holly bushes.
Why would anyone hide something in that? That's just cool.
It's
they do. Yeah, I've seen it. They don't have a lot of them around here in Houston. There's a fair number of holly bushes, and those really piss me off when people hide them in there.
Yeah. I literally had to get specialty gloves just to go digging in for those, because otherwise you just shredded.
Yeah, I've got an old ski jacket I bought for about $5 quite a few years ago that I don't care what happens to, but that's pretty much good for getting through anything spiky, because the spikes don't get through it.
Right. I do find interesting, and I'm surprised Scott hasn't grabbed under the column of less common geocaching acronyms.
Which one?
One's called CRAP, which is cache retrieved as planned.
Or disco, for that matter. Disco.
Well, when I hear that, I think of disconnected on the internet. I went disco. So from the 1970s disco to the internet era disco to geocaching disco.
Yeah, apparently this is more Scotland based.
Yes,
this one's off of. But
because they don't know what camo is.
Yeah,
it's like good camo.
Yeah. That's right.
Maybe they don't have camo in Scotland. It's disco.
It's disco.
They have to make their own fun in Scotland.
Yes.
And the old UPR, the unnatural pile of rocks.
Yes, well, that's like us. We've got unnatural piles
of sticks.
We got that stickaflage, is what that is.
Oh, stickaflage? I haven't heard that one.
That's what we call it in Illinois. Stickaflage.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we just have. Apparently, nature does not stack sticks like that. So.
Exactly. That's like nature doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I like the WDIB.
Why did I
bother?
I love it.
Show me one cache that somebody's written that.
Why did I bother? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I've had a couple.
Here's a good one for Scott.
What?
AMIAT, another micro in a tree. Because I know how Scott loves those.
Oh, yeah.
Micros in the woods. Oh, drive me crazy.
Yeah. It's like all that acreage, and you got a freaking bison in a tree.
You could hide a Buick in there, and they put a bison in there. Pisses me off.
Soup is interesting. SOOP, something out of place.
Yep.
I like that one.
I just never thought of. I just write something out of. I don't know. I never would even consider.
I've just seen it as OOP a few times, out of place.
Yeah, I got different ones for that where they that they put in for that. Let me see now.
So I had to add in PI/PO depending upon where you live for poison ivy or poison oak. So
Yeah.
that's a good warning sign.
Oh yeah.
So I
But
guess,
but in due respect, there's also an attribute that has that on there. So
yeah,
There is, but
yeah.
not many people use it.
right.
And then when you look down through the logs and you see when I see PO on the log out here, it's like, whoa, I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Because I'll go through the woods like a bull in a china shop,
Yeah, sure,
and then 2 hours later I'm completely regretting it.
Yeah, but that's what happens though. People will sit there and they'll hide it like in early spring or winter or what have you, and go, "What a great place to put! Why hasn't somebody put something here?" And then about 8 weeks later, people are like, there's poison ivy up to your nose in
I've seen
that area.
I've been in it's where it's up to your knees and you're busheling through it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Sure,
a
I've
lot.
seen that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing you're almost tempted to take a weed eater or chainsaw and clear the area so you can get to what you.
Yeah, here, you know what we're getting here? We're getting that what's the one that will kill you? Taj, you
Oh,
know what it's
really?
called?
The one that's about 6 to 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Oh, but they're taller than that. It's hogweed.
Jess?
Oh, giant hogweed.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that stuff? That stuff that'll kill you in the woods. The plant. The plant. Yeah. Is it wild sumac? Is that what it's called? Is it sumac?
Yeah. Wild parsnip, is that what it is? I think it's
Wild
I've heard of that too.
I thought that was a ingredient for your.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to touch it, sir.
No.
Okay.
Well, it's something that there's a white flower, and it's actually more of the Quebec up in northern Canada, but it's moving down into the States, and it's also over in Europe, which is the hogweed. Now, what
Mhm.
Oh,
happens
giant
with
hogweed is not
yeah,
nice.
because what happens is it's the sap. I think if it touches you anywhere, you become immediately susceptible to major burns.
That's
pain
wild parsnip. That's wild parsnip.
Wild parsnip,
It's,
according to Wikipedia, which has to be right, is a common is there's several variants, but the main ones are wild parsnip is a Eurasian weed with edible root but toxic sap in the leaves and stems.
Yeah. It's this yellow
And
one. If you look at the pictures, it's the yellow things.
And
They look
giant
like flying
hogweed, if you
saucers.
see
Oh.
that, you'll find it. It's
And that's
Yeah.
now we used to see it in Wisconsin and Minnesota, but now it's made its way to Illinois, and this stuff just spreads like weeds.
Yeah, well, this
I mean,
stuff
it's
gets like
everywhere.
12, 15 feet tall with the
Yeah.
giant hogweed.
yeah, this
Terrible.
apparently
Yeah.
initially the skin. If you get this stuff,
It burns you.
If
Yeah,
you-
I have friends with scars on their hands. Burns.
Yeah, stinging nettles can
Oh,
do
yeah,
that
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
But I did find out when I was up in Washington this past August that there's a type of fern that grows right near the nettles. That if you take that fern and you rub it on where you get the stinging nettles, it takes care of the problem.
oh,
And
dock leaves.
Yeah.
Dock leaves. Yeah, but everybody in the UK knows if you get nettles, UK nettles, there's probably dock leaves fairly nearby, and they may not take it all away, but they will help.
yeah, it took a heck of a lot more away than what the previous time when we used what kind of sports medicine tape to rip it out and Benadryl spray to put it on there and some other things, and it still took several hours for it to start getting to only the kind of a buzzing, vibrating pain feel.
That just ruins the day. It ruins the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh,
are stinging nettles in the United States?
Yes.
yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, we've got them in Texas, but I can identify those real easy in Texas, but I know Washington, all along the West Coast, anywhere that there's what do you call that type of rainforest area? It's like the colder rainforest, like Alaska all the way down through Oregon has.
Right.
Anyways, those areas have tons of it.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got it too. We've got singing hills here.
Huh. I don't
You
think I've
walk
ever
through, you
actually
don't even notice, and
seen
all of a sudden you're like arm goes numb. You're like, what the hell?
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
You're like,
So
oh my God,
good
you
things to
immediately
know to
know what
stay
you
away
did
from.
Immediately you're like, oh damn it. You're like, I got
Yep.
hit. Tagged. Yep. Oh, it's horrible. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, because that's one that I don't think. I mean, I've seen plants similar to nettles. I'm looking at some pictures here, but I don't think I've ever actually had a situation with those.
Every time I've hit it, I knew I hit it because my hand went numb, and then I looked. I'm like, oh, there it is. Like I knew it was like
Yeah.
I just
Mhm.
didn't
Well,
before I put my
also-
hand there.
yeah, in New Zealand, there's also a variant. I think it's a relative to the nettle, but it's actually worse. It's called ongaronga, onga, and that if you get stung by it, you've been stung by it for not just a few minutes, for several hours.
Oh yeah, let's look the nettle too. It's ours.
Yeah, it's ours for the nettle.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
you're miserable. Your day is just taking a bad turn. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
you're
that's-
miserable.
Yeah, because I know with the hog bush, when you with that, anytime you're in the sun, and it's for life. I mean, it's not. There's no major cure for it. Once you get zapped by this stuff, you've got it for life.
Well, the
And-
parsnip, yeah, the parsnip burns you. It scars you.
Yeah,
It will. The wild parsnip will scar you.
yeah, because it'll literally sit there and anytime the direct sunlight hits you for that, it just bubbles back up. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I had friends that thought they were just weeds, this yellow flowers, and so they were barreling through it to get a cache, not knowing it was and so they burned luckily they were wearing clothing, but like their
Right.
hand totally got burned.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is apparently it is in the East Coast too as well, because they're talking here. I'm just going through the internet on there. They've got it for stinging nettle from the University of Maryland Medical Center. So it's on the East Coast as well.
Yeah, wild parsnip though has been making its way down. And, it
yeah,
was Canada, then it was Minnesota, Wisconsin, now it's Illinois.
yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, it's
So yeah,
awesome.
watch what you touch, folks, because
Yeah.
that's gonna
No, and usually, I mean, Illinois has been really good about when they see it, they'll put a sign up by parking and at the start of all the
say
trails,
warning.
like, hey, this is what it looks like. This is this is not indigenous, right?
Indigenous.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Indigenous to this area.
it's not
Heads
from
up if you
there.
see this, do not touch it. Do not, like leave it alone.
Wow.
So, a lot of burns and stuff like that, but unless you get it when it's rooted before, once it's out and you burn it, it's no good. You got to get it before or something like that.
Yeah,
Bring your Elon Musk boring machine flamethrower.
and flame it out.
Exactly.
It's icky, man. It's amazing how
Geocaching
that works.
Podcast accepts no liability for any damage caused.
And that's
Yeah.
another good reason why you do not want to be going out into the woods with fashion shoes.
And
Because
passion shoes and shorts, for God's
or
sakes. What's wrong?
clogs or
What's
flip
wrong
flops.
with you? Jesus, going hiking in the woods in shorts.
Just saying.
I don't know when in Houston when it was high 90s and 99% humidity. It's like I've got to wear shorts.
Oh, you're crazy.
It's like I would come back with my legs all ripped up, but it's like
Oh, yeah.
You're screaming in the shower, dude. It's not worth it. It's like,
Mm-mm-mm.
oh, God.
Yep. So, anyways, that's
I scream in the shower when I'm wearing pants, let alone and I've been a nasty bushwhack, let alone shorts.
Yeah, it's and especially with here, not as much in Michigan, but I definitely know in this part of the country in North Carolina that the briars,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
the briars are everywhere in different shapes and forms, and usually it's anywhere from chest high down. And if you go out in shorts, you're earning your stripes is where I think a lot of that comes
Literally.
from. Because
Yeah.
oh my God, There was one time when we did the balloon in space geocache, the Leaf, 1 years ago, and it landed in an area where we separated in 4 different parties to try to get to where the locator said that it came down. And so we're sitting there going, and of course the path I took was the one where the briars literally went up trees. It was so thick. And I had it wrapped around my legs so bad, and yes, I was in shorts.
Oh,
And it's like, the pictures are not pretty. Let's put it that way. But literally had it at one point where I wish I had a machete. It was wrapped around my legs, and I'm trying to get this stuff moved off of me while you're trying to tread through it. And it's one of those moments where you got stuck in the woods and going, I really should not be here.
It's like, I quit. I'm going home.
Please let me go. Let me.
Yeah, I remember in like 2009. I think my second year caching, I wore shorts out caching in the woods after literally a whole day in the woods. I mean, and I had, when I say I had poison ivy all over my leg. I mean, for weeks, I was miserable.
Yep.
I learned a very valuable lesson.
Very valuable lesson. We all have our lessons.
And that's the reason I wear pants out here when caching all the time instead of shorts, because poison oak. I'm deadly allergic to poison oak. Poison ivy, doesn't faze me, but poison oak
faze you. Oh God.
Yeah.
And they're very chemically similar, but something about it is different enough that one, my body's like, whatever. The other one's my body's like, I'm gonna kill you.
We'll die now.
Die. Yeah. Sarah, do you have anything out there besides the Nestles and that in New Zealand?
Not a lot that I'm aware of. I mean, there's gorse, which is prickly holly, about. There's something called bush lawyer, which is like a sort of bit like briars or brambles. It's long, but it's long. It sort of can grow long sort of stems that can grow across paths, and those have hooks on them that
hooks.
Just little spiny hooks on the stem, and if you get that, those can be a bit difficult to get off your clothes.
Ouch.
If they've got hold.
Yeah, we got some briar or burrs down here that got spiny hooks on them that are a pain in the butt, and they love to get into your shoelaces, and you got to clean all your shoelaces off. And and they'll actually untie your friggin' shoes. And I this past over Christmas break, I bought when I went to get new hiking shoes. They had this pair of shoes with this elastic shoelace, and that kind of you pull it back and you just slide this little thing down. And bought a pair of those, and they're awesome because they don't pick up the friggin' burrs, and they don't get untied by the burrs.
Yeah.
If we get loads of sort of seeds and burrs that can burrow into your socks, and then so that you've got to try and where's this damn thing sticking in my leg and pull them out.
Actually, a geocacher that had been around forever taught me, I think the first day I went to my first event, and he sat there and he pulled out of his little pocket of tools there was a plastic fork. And he says, you know what this is for besides eating? And I said, no, sir. He said, you use the fork to get the burrs. They slide in between and pop them right off. And ever since then, I've had a fork in my pack for just such a thing. So you learn these little tricks.
Oh,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool stuff. All right. Well, good stuff. Like I said, terminology will lead you in all sorts of different directions. And this way it did with ours as well. So good stuff to learn. We'll have links to these other terms that you can look in, study up on. So that way, when somebody gives you a BOCP, you'll know what they're talking about.
How dare you, Andy?
I know it. All right, folks. Anything else, guys? Otherwise than that, we're pretty much done, I think. All right.
Nope.
Hey,
Still
folks.
raining
Yep. Thanks for stopping on by. I want to say thank you to Chad and Sarah and Scott, as always. And thank you for subscribing to the Geocaching Podcast. And I'm going to push this little button here and finish this off. please be sure to join us each and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time for another episode of the Geocaching Podcast, right here on the Geocaching Podcast website at www.geocachingpodcast.com/live. The video version of our show is available on YouTube, and the audio version is available on our home website, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and many of your favorite podcatchers. We love hearing from our viewers and listeners, so please visit us through our social media sites or contact us via our voicemail line at 630-31-VOICE. The Geocaching Podcast is a Headhardhat production. It is produced by Andy Smith, Scott Burks, Chad Courtney, and Sarah T.S. The show is copyright 2018 by Andrew T. Smith. All rights reserved. And clear. All right, good stuff. Yeah, it's amazing how all that stuff's going to come into fruition. Now, Sarah's in the middle of her summer. We're starting to go into spring. So are you actually kind of heading towards the fall side of things?
It's January. I'm not starting to go into spring.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the South, it's
months before I go
It's
spring.
1st of February. The kids have gone back to school after their long summer holiday.
Is it?
I'm in the dead of winter right now.
See, I'm expecting tulips and daffodils literally to be popping up in the next 3 weeks.
And we're in the greenest part of the year because it's the only time of the year that it friggin' rains.
Yeah, for you when it rains. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's certainly raining at the moment. I can tell you that now.
I bet.
Yeah, we got talk to me at the end of February. We'll talk about spring. Like,
well, like it is. I remember my mom years ago in Michigan. She said that until the what is it? The chrysanthemum, one of the yellow bush that shows up all the time in spring. Don't plant your flowers, and that's usually like mid-May. Late May.
Yeah, I remember in Indiana, the April showers bring May flowers was literal.
Yes.
Everywhere else, it's like that doesn't friggin' apply.
Yeah, we've got various sort of growing up. There used to be all sorts of phrases. One I remember from childhood is March comes in like a lion and goes out like. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you can use that one as well.
Yeah.
Another one we had, and might be a northern one, was "Don't cast clout till May be out."
Really?
Which means don't take off all your winter woolies until May, which is another name for hawthorn flowers are out.
Wow, you learned something new.
Yeah, see, April for me, because April's when Little League starts. That's when it starts up. So that's when it starts to warm up. When April.
Yeah, but I remember snowstorms. Some of the worst snowstorms in Michigan were in April.
Oh yeah, but that's unusual though.
Yeah.
We must be heading into autumn. The posters have gone up and the emails are coming out to enroll for winter sports.
Ah.
Yeah, Jesse was looking at bikinis at Target the other day, so I know.
Oh, geez.
They're already selling the summer stuff out there.
Yep.
Well, hey, no, I haven't owned a bikini since I was 16.
Me neither.
A fact for which the world is entirely grateful.
Well, I've never owned one, Andy.
Yeah, Chad's always been a one-piece kind of guy, so that's all right.
Exactly.
All right, folks. Well, have a good one.
As long as it's not the Borat mankinis.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's some things you just don't want to see. That's
exactly.
All right, guys. I'm gonna go finish this up. All right, have a good one, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye bye.